Similarly, how do we treat ethics? One answer given in most of my workshops is to be ethical means not to break any laws. I have done it, I have not broken any laws. How is it unethical? I think this is a very obvious misunderstanding. The domain of ethics starts only where the domain of law ends. Because if you break the law, you are a criminal, you will be punished. And we are not talking about ethics of criminals. And therefore, a proper understanding of both ethics and human values in the managers, in the leaders of the industry, the people who give shape to the manner in which the organizations would operate, should, needs to be, not should, ought to be, must change if ethics, human values and spirituality are to have some significance in the management systems. Only emphasizing business goals. Reductionist level, it is just maximizing profit, enlarging market share, increasing productivity. These are all efficiency-oriented things. We promote efficiency. Management theories, management teaching is to make you efficient managers so that you achieve these specified goals with the least expenditure of resources. That is an atmosphere in which ethics and values is not a concern, in this concern for efficiency. This is still the mainstream ethos of the organizations, of the managers and the management. But since about last 3 decades, there has been strong winds of change. Because the modern enterprise of the techno-economic enterprise has seen the ill consequences of all these things going on. More specifically, where it hurts. In the 80s, there were such big scams, particularly in the heart of capitalist system, that is America. They are publicized, elsewhere also they were there. So I'm not advocating any particular socio-economic ideology, but these resulted into a questioning of should the techno-economic organizations and management education go along the traditional line of focusing only on the efficient performance of their functions, or should it include other considerations? And since then, there have been positive changes. Some of them I would just like to mention, the concepts which are now coming up in our consciousness. For example, business ethics, organizational ethics has become almost a compulsory subject for everybody to study. There has been this concept of social responsibility, ethical responsibility of organizations. There have been efforts to formulate fair business practices, concepts of corporate integrity. Another area where there has been shift in terminology, which is indicative of the shift in the attitude, we talk more about human development rather than human resource. When you say the word resource itself indicates that you are treating him like a mineral or oil or energy. That's only an instrumental value. So you have to develop the human person, not only his skills, but him or her as a person. And of course, these changes have also resulted in practical transformation, practical changes, not by a change in this consciousness of the management systems alone, but because of the social pressures. Society does not tolerate this kinds of immorality or immoral conducts, and therefore there are several methods. For example, one of them is the annual report, progress report, to be presented to shareholders must now include not only a report on the economic performance, but also on ethical and social performance. So there are stricter regulations. The media, the regulatory agencies, the judiciary is taking strong view of the kinds of immoralities committed, and therefore these winds of change are occurring. Unfortunately, these are not so strong in our country. The information on that is coming from literature which is originating in the Western countries. But these winds of change should become more effective, should be nurtured in our context also. And since we are not doing it in our country, what are the consequences? We are already facing those consequences. We want to become a global player with such a low ranking of being one of the most unethical countries. Can we expect to be a global player? Lot of investment we could have got, but it is shying away because people don't trust you. Our own performance is suboptimal. We are capable of much better performance purely in the economic and technological sense, scientific, economic and technological sense. But we are not able to perform, rise up to those levels because of the unethical attitudes which have been, in fact, they have not been built into it. We have ignored the nature of the ethical in real life situations. We think religion has to do with, ethics has to do with religious life, with spiritual life for sadhus and monks. We have to be practical. Practical means ignore the ethical. It is seen, in fact, by many, it is seen as a roadblock to success. I used to teach a course on human values to engineering students, and many of them would come up in every class particular. But if we follow these things, will it not we fail in this competitive environment? There's a lot of truth in there. But it's an unfortunate situation that we have not created that kind of a good society and good systems where good persons can work and succeed in material sense also. And therefore, what we need to do, first of all, introduce courses as academic people, teach ethics and human values. A proper structural framework, an academic pedagogical framework for it is evolving world over. We should also join, evolve it, develop it ourselves, and then teach it. Some places they are doing it. I think not more than half a dozen institutions, or maybe now a dozen, are teaching courses on business ethics and managerial ethics. But most of the places, they are simply borrowing books, American books. Now, going through that literature tells, I get the feeling, they are not, number one, reflecting Indian realities, Indian situations, Indian experiences. We have a long experience of running, doing techno-economic activities, even after independence, but even earlier. After all, India was the biggest producer. The share of Indian economy in the world economy at the end of 18th century was as much as 16 or 20%.